Hey guys, welcome back to more political chatter. Today we will be talking about the state of the 2026 Senate races and how Democrats really do have a really good opportunity, if they get a little lucky, to really make huge advances in the Senate, as it is a pretty good map for the Democrats going into 2026. The Senate map was not good for them at all in 2024. They lost many seats. They lost 4 seats overall. 4 seats flipped from Democrat to Republican. So right now it is in the Senate 53 to 47 after the 2024 elections. But going into 2026, Democrats have quite a few opportunities to flip back formerly Democratic seats that went Republican recently, and they honestly do have some chance of actually taking control back in the Senate. It is slim, but if they get lucky, they can do it. So right now, this is after you characterize all seats in my current forecast that I have made a spreadsheet for now. That is over a 10% margin. So that's everything on the Republican side from Wyoming, which is a 45% margin, to let's see, Kansas, which is a, 16 point, or sorry, to Florida, which is a 14.3% margin. So here are the numbers right now. As you can see at the top, you could see what each column means. We have the incumbent senator and the state, obviously. We have the characterization: safe, likely, lean, tilt, whatever. We have the margin that we think the race will be. The last election, if the senator ran for election in 2020, what that margin was, that was their last election, the last time they ran. We have the shift from the 2024 presidential election. That's very interesting in some of these states, like Maine, for example. And then you have who I think will eventually win. Will it be the incumbent? Will it flip? Parties? Will it be a primary challenger? That is what this spreadsheet decodes to. So, as you can see, I think that Democrats, if you look, hold on to John Ossoff in Georgia. I think they hold on to Gary Peters' seat. Gary Peters is retiring in Michigan, but I think that they hold on to that seat. And I think that they flip the state of North Carolina. So let's just map my current prediction out right now. Of course, Minnesota, New Hampshire, these states that we don't talk about too much are going to be likely. New Mexico and Virginia. You've got Iowa, Texas, on the Republican side. Ohio, as of now, is likely. Alaska is actually lean, I think, because it looks like Mary Peltola is going to run. So that leaves really 4 competitive seats. You've got Michigan, which I just talked about. You have, and Nebraska is likely as of now. You've got Maine, which I think flips towards the Democrats. You've got Georgia, where John Ossoff holds on, and you've got North Carolina, which is a tilt margin, another flip for the Democrats. So this is my current prediction right now. Democrats are flipping North Carolina and Maine. North Carolina, you have the incumbent Republican Tom Tillis. He won by 1.7% in the last election. But it looks like in 2026, you're going to have the former governor, Roy Cooper, a Democrat who is incredibly popular. It looks like he's going to run. So right now, I have North Carolina as a 0.8% margin. Very tight margin, but Democrats do flip it regardless. And then, as I said, Georgia and Michigan, Democrats hold those. But look at Maine. Maine is a Democratic state, but they have a Republican senator, Susan Collins. In the last election, she won by 8.6%. It shocked everybody, especially with that type of margin. It was a blowout. Meanwhile, on the same ballot, Biden won the state. Again, this was 2020, by 8 points on that same exact ballot. However, 2026 is different. We're now in a Trump midterm. She is going to face a primary challenge from a more, MAGA aligned Republican. Susan Collins is pretty moderate compared to other Republicans. The party will be fractured. The main Republican Party will be fractured after that primary. And in a Trump midterm, you're just going to have more partisan Democrats turn out. Being on a presidential ballot in 2020 actually helped her because you had more independent voters turn out, less lower propensity voters, meaning voters who turn out less often. You had more of those types of voters come out who are independent and they vote for Susan Collins. In 2026, it's going to be a more partisan race. You're going to have Democrats turn out much more than independents or Republicans. So because of that, I don't think it is possible right now for Susan Collins to hold on. That being said, we don't know who the Democratic nominee is. That could be a very weak candidate. Right now, I have Janet Mills, the current governor running, but I think that Maine flips towards the Democrats. So, how do Democrats win the Senate? If this is going to be a landslide victory for them, how do they win the Senate? Because this is 49 to 51. Democrats need 51 seats to control the Senate. 50 is not enough. They need that extra 51. So where do we look? Well, of course, what's the next step? Look at the closest Republican states. You have Alaska, but I think this is pushing it. Because right now, you have Dan Sullivan, who's a very weak, unpopular incumbent Republican. I have him winning by 4.9%, but this is assuming Mary Peltola, the U.S. representative, or the former U.S. representative, runs. In that case, I think it would be close, but if not, it wouldn't be this close at all. It would be a blowout for Dan Sullivan. And even this is pushing it. If Mary Peltola runs, I still think he would run. I really think Alaska is out of the question, even though it is the closest out of these, just because, we already know a lot about the race. But it comes down to where we don't know much about the race. For example, Ohio. Ohio, I currently have going to the Republicans by 5.1%. But what if Sherrod Brown is the nominee? What if Tim Ryan is the nominee? Two very strong Democrats in the state of Ohio, very sure to shake up the race if either of them run, especially Sherrod Brown, the former senator, lost his race in 2024. He could win it back in a midterm election when you have more partisan Democrats turning out, more higher propensity voters. These Democratic elections are going to be very favorable for the Democratic Party because you have these more higher propensity, more involved, better educated voters turn out who have become increasingly Democratic in these recent years, as the 2022 midterm showed us. So, Ohio, if Democrats were to take back the Senate, it would run through Ohio. It would require Sherrod Brown or Tim Ryan running, probably Sherrod Brown, and somehow ousting John Husted. So where do you look from there? Because now it's 50-50. Well, I'm going to go on a limb here and say that it's not Joni Ernst. I think she's out of reach. It's going to be another one of these races where we don't know too much and things could really, candidates, and we just don't know how the race is going to go essentially. And that is the race in Nebraska. Because Nebraska, once again, Dan Osborne, that independent labor union leader, is going to run. So if you have Dan Osborne, and he just conducted a poll where he was 1 point behind Pete Ricketts at this stage in the race, so early on, 2 years away from the election, and he's already 1 point down. See, this was a difference from 2024. He eventually got close in his polls, but nobody knew Dan Osborne when he started his campaign. But now he already has a base of support. He's known for overperforming Democrats, overperforming everybody's expectations for him in statewide elections. So now, if he's already starting out by being down 1%, you can only imagine where he can go from there in 2 points. He can run a very strong campaign. So, of course, Dan Osborne is an independent, though, but he's a union leader. He's a Bernie supporter. He has supported Bernie in the past. I don't think he would caucus with the Democrats, but I think on every single important issue, or important legislation, I should say, he will vote for the Democrats. Now, I guarantee you, on a few meaningless social issues like, where you can fly certain pride flags or whatever, just as an example, I don't know. I bet he would vote with the Republicans so that he could use that in his next election, even if he didn't really want to, personally, without outside pressures. But take Build Back Better. He would have voted for Build Back Better 100% on every meaningful piece of economic legislation. He would be a strong Democratic vote. So let's just characterize him, as a Democrat, and boom, you have a Democratic majority. So the path for Democratic control of the Senate runs through all the seats that they currently have, obviously. It runs next through North Carolina and goes up to Maine. And then it goes out west. Goes to the Midwest with Ohio, and then the Great Plains in Nebraska. That is how Democrats would take control of the Senate in 2026. Again, it is a very narrow path, but it is possible. It is possible at that. I mean, we'll see. It's all a matter of how bad things get in this administration. We'll see how bad things get. But if they get bad, bad, we could see, just farmers absolutely turn on the Republican Party and Trump due to these tariffs and everything, right? The soybeans. And we could see Iowa become competitive, Ohio become competitive. We could see Nebraska, especially with someone like Dan Osborne, who Republicans, wouldn't feel too bad about voting for, right? They're never going to vote for a Democrat. A lot of these guys, but if agriculture is in just such disarray, it is such an awful state of the economy for farmers and agriculture. They would not shy away from voting for Dan Osborne. I guarantee you that just how many will. But also, again, this is a midterm election, and we are in a new age of midterm elections where Democrats are the higher propensity voters. So that is something to watch in 2026, and it's something to keep in mind that we didn't know in 2022 is that, these higher propensity voters, more likely to turn out better educated, more involved in politics, they are now more likely to vote for Democrats in this new Trump 2.0 stage. So again, this is my spreadsheet. Here's what I'm thinking right now. I think that the highest margin will be in Massachusetts with Ed Markey winning another term. That's a 28.5% margin. You have pretty strong states for Democrats like Illinois plus 15, New Jersey, Cory Booker wins by 10. That is much less than 2020, though, but that's a rapidly trending right state. As for the Republicans, their highest margin is a lot more. Wyoming, Cynthia Loomis plus 43.9, West Virginia plus 42 with Shelley Moore Capito. Their closest state is right now, weird to see, but right now I think their closest state is Alaska. 4.9% margin, lean percent margin. Might be delusional for that, might not be. The Democrats' closest state is, of course, North Carolina, a 0.8% margin. Once again, this video is sponsored by Turn Left Merch. Make sure to visit them. I will put the link in the description and the comments. They sell anti-Trump merchandise, liberal, leftist, a progressive, everything you could think of in terms of the left side of the political spectrum. You can find it. Anti-Elon, anti-Trump merch. They have so much to choose from. Some of them are funny, some of them are serious. Bernie 2028, they have everything. So thank you all for watching this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe down below. That helps out a lot. And I will see you all next time.